Welcome back. Now we start from Pakistan, which has reported 31 deaths from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, raising the total to nearly 6,000. The Health Ministry says 1,587 new cases were reported overnight as the tally crossed 265,000. Officials said over 205,000 people have recovered from the virus so far. The ministry said there are now over 53,000 active cases in the country, among which 1,552 are in critical condition. Sindh is the worst hit province with over 113,000 infections, while Punjab has reported over 90,000 cases. In the United States, 877 people have died from COVID-19, while over 67,000 infected in the last 24 hours. The country's death toll has crossed 140,000 with over 3.7 million infections. The global death toll from the new coronavirus has passed 605,000 with more than 14.4 million infections. More details in this report.
Governments around the world are eyeing tougher steps to fight COVID-19 as its second wave rages across the world. Since late June, the US has seen a resurgence in new cases, and now, 5 weeks later, America is losing about 5,000 people to the virus every week. In Brazil, 716 more have died, increasing the toll to over 79,000 with nearly 2.1 million cases. Despite that, just after recovering from the virus, Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro joined hundreds of supporters outside his residence, flagging global guidelines. In many parts of the world, ignoring stay-at-home calls, people continue to flag guidelines, risking community transmission.
Some beaches, they're keeping the distance. The other restaurant, it was full. So I think everybody's doing what they want. And I think the government's risking by putting everything in the control of the people. I think they need to take stricter measures, make it safe, make the virus go away, and then properly open the border.
In Hong Kong, banks have closed their branches across the city-state, edging towards another round of lockdowns after a virus spike. But in China, Beijing has announced to lower its emergency response to COVID-19 from level 2 to level 3.
The risk of the spreading virus to other parts from Beijing is relatively low, and the epidemic situation is stable and under control. The conditions are in place to lower the response level from 2 to 3.
More than 5,000 have died in Africa's hardest hit country, South Africa, with tens of thousands contracting the disease every day.
Now, wrangling EU leaders will meet again today after they failed to agree on $2 trillion COVID-19 recovery fund and a 7-year budget. The summit was initially scheduled for just 2 days, but has been pushed to 4th day due to disagreements over the fund's size and mode of distribution. After the adjournment of the talks was announced, both Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz and Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said progress was being made. Rutte said talks had been close to failing, but European Council President Charles New compromise proposal may bear fruit. With pandemic dealing Europe its worst economic shock since the World War II, EU leaders are expected to reach an agreement to jumpstart economies. Moving on, Iraq says 4 ISIS militants and 2 paramilitary Hasht Shabi members have been killed in 2 attacks in Saladin province. In a statement, the government-backed Hasht Shabi forces said the ISIS fighters were killed in an operation in Samarra city. Meanwhile, a roadside bomb exploded on a Hasht Shabi vehicle during an anti-ISIS operation in the Al Jazeera area. The statement said the explosion destroyed the vehicle and killed 2 members and wounded 4 others aboard. Moving on, Jordan says the Israeli annexation of Palestinian territories will have catastrophic repercussions on efforts to achieve peace in the region. In a statement, Foreign Minister Eman Safadi said the annexation will undermine the hopes of a 2-state solution of the conflict. Talking about the Libyan crisis, Safadi underlined Jordan's support for all efforts to reach a political solution to end the conflict. He said Jordan supports all UN resolutions about reaching a settlement by Libyans themselves. Safadi said the outcomes of the Berlin Conference and the Cairo Declaration should be implemented in the country. Nigeria says it has killed 8 senior members of Boko Haram in northeastern Borno province. Defense Ministry spokesman John Eneche said an airstrike targeted Boko Haram in the Goski village. The spokesperson said numerous shelters used by the Boko Haram and logistic materials were also destroyed during the operation. Boko Haram launched a terrorist campaign in northeastern Nigeria in 2009 but later spread to neighboring Niger, Chad and Cameroon. The UN says more than 30,000 people have been killed and nearly 3 million displaced in a decade of Boko Haram's violence. Saudi Arabia's King Salman bin Abdul Aziz has been admitted to the hospital in the capital city of Riyadh. The Saudi state media says the king is undergoing further medical checks after being diagnosed with gallbladder inflammation. 84-year-old Salman has ruled since 2015 and is the custodian of Islam's holiest sites. He spent more than 2.5 years as the Saudi Crown Prince and Deputy Premier before becoming the king. He also served as governor of the Riyadh region for more than 50 years. 34-year-old Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is next in line for the throne and serves as the kingdom's de facto ruler. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan pays a surprise visit to Hagia Sophia just days before the first Muslim prayers are scheduled there. President's office said in a quick inspection visit, Erdogan took stock of the conversion work. It was unclear whether the Turkish president planned to be among some 500 worshippers set to attend the Friday prayers. Turkey's top court paved the way for the conversion of Hagia Sophia in a decision to revoke its museum status conferred nearly a century ago. The 6th century building had been open to all visitors since its inauguration as a museum in 1935. Moving on, Beijing says it will respond to any attempts by the UK to sanction Chinese officials following the imposition of a security law in Hong Kong. In an interview, China's envoy to the United Kingdom, Liu Xiaoming, said London should chart its own foreign policy rather than dance to the tune of Washington. So the US imposed sanctions on Chinese officials and Beijing reciprocated the move. Earlier, Britain clapped curbs to target individuals over alleged human rights abuses. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said it would brief the Parliament to outline further measures on Hong Kong and China. Tensions between London and Beijing are rising over a host of issues, including Hong Kong and Huawei. Over to India, where violent protests have erupted in West Bengal after the gang rape and murder of a teenager. Angry demonstrators burnt police vehicles and passenger buses after the body of a 17-year-old girl was found near a field. Horrific gang rape incidents have rocked India over the years. In this latest episode, angry demonstrators chanted slogans against the police and demanded justice for the girl. Police fired tear gas and resorted to bait and charge to disperse the crowd who blocked the national highway. The government data shows that one woman reported a rape every 15 minutes on average, with 34,000 rapes only in 2018. Still in India, where at least 10 people have been killed by lightning strikes during a thunderstorm in 7 districts of Bihar. Officials said over 160 people have died due to lightning strikes in the state in the past 3 weeks. State Chief Minister Nitish Kumar appealed to people to remain vigilant and stay indoors during the bad weather. This comes as monsoon rains have battered India's northeastern state of Assam and displaced nearly 4 million people. Officials said the overflowing Brahmaputra River has damaged crops and triggered mudslides. They said dozens are still missing following rains. Now, floods following torrential monsoon rains in Bangladesh have marooned about 2.3 million people in 18 districts. Disaster Management Ministry says floodwater is still flowing above the danger mark at 22 points in different districts across the country. It said at least 8 people have been killed by floods which have affected people of 523 unions. Meanwhile, crops worth over $40 million have also been damaged by the floods, and further losses on tens of thousands of farmers are feared. Agricultural Department's officials said growers in 14 districts suffered the biggest losses as the floods submerged nearly 42,000 hectares of land. Dhaka says it has opened over 8,000 centres in the districts where at least 47,000 adults and nearly 13,000 children have taken shelter. Now, the UAE has become the first Arab nation to launch a mission to Mars. The unmanned 200-day mission blasted off from Japan's Tanegashima Island, joining the US and China for similar attempts. It will separate from its HIIA rocket and begin the 200-day journey towards the Red Planet. The mission's approval came after weeks of heavy rain and postponements on July 15 and 17. UAE officials say the mission has cost $200 million. It aims to provide a complete picture of the Martian atmosphere for the first time, studying daily and seasonal changes. There are currently 8 active missions exploring Mars. Some orbit the planet and some have landed on its surface. After the success of drive-in cinemas during social distancing restrictions amid COVID-19, Paris turns the River Seine into a float-in cinema. More about the streaming cinema in this report.
In Paris, film fans can now munch on their popcorn watching a movie while drifting over the River Seine. People aboard 38 electric boats were treated to a free showing of the 2018 French comedy Le Grand Bain. Each boat can seat up to 6 people who know each other. Others can watch from deck chairs as the screen floats over the Seine.
Super excited. It's a really unique opportunity. I've never seen anything like this in Paris, so super excited.
This is a part of the 6-week summer festival, Paris Plage. Organizers hope to hold similar showings during the course of the festival. Although cinemas have reopened in France, occupancy levels remain very low because of the COVID-19 protocols for social distancing. This serene summer fiesta's open sky cinema was thoroughly enjoyed by movie fans.
I really enjoy open-air cinema. It marks the beginning of the summer, and even if we are already in mid-July, for me it marks the beginning of the Persian adventures. I really enjoy the idea of boats associating the Seine River with a movie on water. I didn't want to miss this.
Paris Plage, a summer fiesta launched in 2002, creates artificial beaches on the banks of the Seine in central Paris and the Bassin de la Villette. It also offers sporting opportunities such as fencing, giant table football, and open-air gyms looking out over the Seine.
More news coming up after a short break. Stay tuned. Asian stock markets are trading relatively higher as investors continue to tread cautiously over COVID-19 resurgence. Investors' participation in risk equities trade continues to remain low over fears of delay in the revival of economic activity. Shanghai Composite is trading over 2% higher. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index has gained marginally. Nikkei 225 and Seoul's Kospi Index are trading flat. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude oil has lost over 0.5%. And in football now, Chelsea beat Manchester United by 3-1 in the semi-final of the FA Cup at Wembley Stadium. The Blues will now meet Arsenal in the final on 1st of August. The Red Devils ditched their usual FA Cup keeper Sergio Romero to keep faith with David De Gea. But the Spanish international produced 2 horrendous errors either side of the half-time to give Chelsea 2 goals. De Gea flimsy attempts to stop Olivier Giroud's flick in the first half stoppage time gave Chelsea the lead. Harry late own goal put an end to all hopes of a comeback for the United. Now, Bournemouth are on the verge of relegation after losing to local rivals Southampton. The Saints beat struggling Bournemouth 2-0 at the Vitality Stadium. Danny Lengs opened the scoring for the Saints 4 minutes before the half-time whistle. Che Adams blasted in a second to complete an astonishing few minutes for Bournemouth. They will be relegated on Tuesday if Watford gets a point against Manchester City or if the Hornets get one against Arsenal on the final day. In another fixture, Tottenham Hotspur thrashed Leicester City 3-0 at home. Jose Mourinho's side move up to 6th in the table, 2 points clear of the Wolves. And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the globe. With the weather update, we come to the end of this bulletin. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.